message from God because I had been given a message to pass on to him. I didn't know the meaning of it, so all I had to do was tell him. He stopped me and he said, "Sarah, do you know God will visit you?" I laughed. I was just,
that's hard to believe.
That's not me. It is hard to believe, it is. But I was so shy, like I could never approach people. Even when people came to me, I would be like, "Okay," and then run off. Fine, and I was still scared because I thought, am I dying? Is it some sort of illusion that's going on? I didn't understand.
Saying the Lord's time is the best time.
It is the best time. It's definitely
true.
the best time. Yeah.
Hello, welcome everybody to Testimony Time with Genesis. My name is Georgina Patrick. I'm a Christian host, presenter and DJ. Now today I'm being joined by a very special guest. Her name is Sarah Boyanga. She has been through an indescribable experience with God, and we're very pleased and honoured to have her here today. She'll be telling us a bit about her experience. So Sarah, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming to join us.
No problem.
So tell me a bit about yourself, your background, where you live, what you do with your life.
Well, first, my name is Sarah Boyanga. I'm 18 years old. I'm still in full-time education. I live with my parents and we live in Hayes. I'm one of 7 children.
Wow. Okay. Are you the oldest?
No, the oldest girl.
Okay. And so leading up to this most recent experience, have you always been a Christian, or did you become a Christian after this experience?
I've always been a Christian because my dad's a pastor. So I've always grown up in that environment where we're all Christians. So, I've never really been too deep into it before the testimony, so that's, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so are you ready and prepared to tell us about what you went through recently? Your testimony?
Definitely,
Okay. Go for it.
The visitation all started before I moved to my house in Hayes. Before I used to live in White City, where I was a Christian, but I wasn't really too deep into it. Like, I never really saw anything special out of it. So I just saw it as a normal thing that everyone did: go to church, come back home, and that was it. But on the 25th of July, before I moved into my house, I remember my dad had called me into the back garden of my old house before we moved. And I had a message from God because I had been given a message to pass on to him. I didn't know the meaning of it, so all I had to do was tell him. I told him, and before I was about to leave, he was having breakfast with my mom. I was about to leave and he stopped me and he said, "Sarah, do you know God will visit you?" I laughed because I took it as a joke, to be honest. I just laughed and said, "Okay, yeah." So I walked off and I completely forgot everything about it. We moved and everything was fine until one day was the 26th, because we moved the day after. On the 26th, when we moved in, we didn't really finish unpacking everything, but I had an appointment with my mom to go to. Woke up, we were about to have breakfast. I went into the kitchen to get a piece of bread for my mom, and I heard a voice tell me, "From tonight you must begin fasting." And he repeated it, so because I'm the type of person where when I hear a voice, I always think it's my thoughts. I always get confused.
As we all do.
Yeah, so I don't really take it seriously. But it repeated itself more than 3 times. So I went to tell my dad, and he said, "Obey the voice." So I did, and then the morning after, I realized I was asleep. It wasn't even, when you're sleeping, you're sleeping. And I could see myself, I saw my body leave, but my spirit leave, but my body was still there because I remember it looking back. And then I saw myself suddenly bowing down in front of this huge throne. It is big. It is so big, I look like an ant compared to it. And I was scared because I didn't know exactly what was going on. I had my head looking down. I couldn't really lift it up to look around what was going on. But despite the fact that my head was down, I could still kind of see what was going on around me. I saw on the left-hand side there was a door that said the kingdom of hell, and on the right-hand side it said the kingdom of heaven. And the gap in between it was enormous. Like, no one could ever even try to jump over it. It's just impossible. And I didn't understand. And then I saw a book where it was the pages were flicking by itself. No one was touching or anything. It was just flicking by itself. And people were walking towards the book. And every time they walked towards it, they're going to a door which was on the side. And every time the door would open, you could tell that something really bright was inside. But everyone I didn't understand why people were walking to. I was thinking in my head when I woke up, I was like, wait, was that a dream? Because at first I doubted myself. I doubted because I didn't understand what was going on. I've never been through such a thing. Yes, I've read stuff about the testimony and, other people's testimonies and all that stuff, but I've never really seen myself ever going through it. And after that, the visitation for the first day finished, I told my dad, and my dad was like, okay. And when I told my dad first, as a pastor, you can't really believe everything anyone comes to tell you. You can't just take everything in, the truth and lies. So without me knowing, he went and prayed, and he asked God, because before my oldest brother John was born, my parents had a daughter, my older sister, and she passed away when she was 4, and I had never really got to meet her or anything like that. So when my dad went to pray, he said, for the Lord to show that this is true, for him to prove that this is true, to show me my older sister in heaven. And I had no idea. I only found out about him even praying right at the end of the visitation. When everything was done, that's when he said, it's true, because I did pray to God about this and this without anyone knowing, and he actually revealed it to you. After the first day of the visitation, everything went by fine, and I was still scared, because I thought, am I dying? Is it some sort of illusion that's going on? I didn't understand. On the 27th of July, I had woken up and I felt like I had a headache coming on. So I thought, let me go back to sleep. This was around 11:36. And then as I was falling asleep, I heard a voice say to me, Sarah must speak with you. And I knew it was the Lord. Every time he'd visit me, he would hold out his hand. And every time he held out his hand, that's when my spirit would actually leave my body. Without him holding out his hand, my spirit wouldn't leave my body.
So would you describe it as an out-of-body experience? So
yes.
You could see yourself leaving your body?
Yes. Because I remember when the Lord had taken my hand, I'd look back to see if it was my actual body leaving, or was it just a spirit? And I could see my actual body still there. Wow. As the Lord took my hand, we started elevating into the sky. And because I'm scared of heights, like normally I cannot go up anything high because I have like a heart attack. Like I can't handle it. So as we started, I wasn't scared. I didn't understand how that happened because everyone knew it's just impossible for me. And I realized, why am I not scared? Like, why am I not shaking or anything? And I was still holding the Lord's hand. And I asked the Lord, how come you visit me in the mornings than at night now? And I asked him this question because before, I would always get messages like dreams and visions and that at night, but when I was fully asleep rather than during the day. So every time I'd wake up, I'd tell my dad what it was, and that was it for me. And he answered, because I want you to write everything down straight away when you wake up. Tell your mother not to worry about her brother's illness. He will be healed. He is serving me, therefore he shall not die until I, the Lord, says so. And when the Lord said this, it was because my uncle, my mum's brother, he was sick. He had some complication with an operation, and he was in a critical condition in hospital.
Okay. And did you know he was sick?
I knew he was sick.
Okay.
I didn't know exactly what the sickness was, but I knew he was sick because my mum was always worried. She was in tears all the time.
Okay.
And after I just said I took it in, and we flew for a really long time until it got to a place where we stood in front of a huge golden gate. It was humongous. And as we approached it, the doors opened by itself. And on the gate, it read the Kingdom of Heaven. As we walked in, and from the beginning, it was like a pavement of gold. Just gold pavement everywhere. It was not even a different colour. And on the sides, there were flowers. But them flowers is, when you go to a beautiful park and there's someone with flowers out and it all looks amazing. That flower it was I don't know, it makes you feel happy. It gives you joy just by looking at it, you don't even have to touch it.
So they were that beautiful.
They were that beautiful. So as we carried on walking, it was amazing for me. I was just looking around to try and actually get everything in, what was happening. And then we got to a place where an angel walked towards me. And when the angel walked towards me, the Lord went somewhere else. He was no longer with me. He went back onto his throne. And the angel took me to this, it was a room where I had to get changed. I couldn't wear the clothes that I came from earth with. I had to go then get changed into the heavenly robes, and then the visits could happen. And this happened every day of the visit. And as the angel took me in, I changed, and the Lord then, as we went out of the room, I saw the Lord on his throne, because I was standing quite far away. I saw him on his throne and the saints that were bowing down to him. It was amazing. And then the Lord came back down, and when he took me, we started walking for a bit, and then we got to a helicopter. I wouldn't say it was really a helicopter, but it's something that looked like a helicopter, it was flying. And then we sat down and we started flying, and the Lord said to me, "Look down, my daughter." I saw a huge palace, and when we got off the helicopter thing, we went towards the palace, and I ran towards it, further on. The Lord was behind me, and it read Fami Boyanga. And in my head, I thought, but in heaven, I got told that you don't share a palace of, you don't live with your family. It's just, everyone's just by themselves. The Lord opened the gates, and he sat down within the compound. But I went into the actual house itself and looked around. It was amazing, because as I went into my siblings' rooms, everything they have ever told me that they possibly want in their room was there. Every single thing that I can remember. And I was shocked. I was like, wait, but then I never really took this seriously. And how did the Lord know that this is exactly what they wanted? Everything was perfect. I went down into the kitchen, and I heard the Lord say, "I know you and your mother love a big kitchen, so I built one for you." And this kind of made me laugh, because me and my mom, we have a thing where if we're in a small kitchen, we're always arguing. And
just like me and my mom.
Exactly. It was and then we always complain when we get a big kitchen, you're on your side, I'm on my side, stay away from me. Yeah. And I was happy to hear that the Lord said that he actually realized what our needs were. I went around the house, around the house, and then I went out into the garden. It was beautiful. It was like there was a pathway in the middle, and on the sides there were fruits. And I stood there for quite a long time, and I was thinking, should I eat it or should I not? I was debating in my head whether I should, whether I shouldn't. If I touch it, will my hand just go straight through it, or will I actually be able to touch it? And after a while, I could sense that the Lord, he was happy. It was weird, because although I never saw the Lord's face, throughout the whole visit, it was like fire. It was so bright.
His presence was always there.
You could never see his face, but I could feel
his presence.
Yeah, I could feel whenever his emotions as well. If he was happy, I would feel it. If he was upset, I would feel it. If he wasn't happy about something, it's like it was connected in a way. And after then, the Lord then led me out of the palace and said, "I have to show you something, daughter." We started elevating into this huge mountain, and it was told that because I'm afraid of heights, if it was my earthly body on it, I'll probably pass out. It was that high. And we sat down on some sort of rock, and I sat down next to the Lord on top of the mountain. He said, "Look over there." And he pointed, and he told me to focus. He repeated, "Focus." And as I was looking, it was like on the other side, it was like a big gap. And on the other side, it was all dark, there was all dark mud around him. And there was this hole, but it was spitting fire. It was spitting fire. The more I focused, the more I realized that I could hear people screaming. And the screams were like they were in pain. And I was just looking. I couldn't understand exactly what it was. But either way, I realized that there was a huge gap. And it looked like the gap that I had seen on the day before, the visit before. And then I heard the Lord say, "You no longer belong there because you serve me." After hearing this, I was filled with happiness. At first, to be honest, I didn't really understand what he meant. I no longer belong because I serve him. I didn't understand how exactly that fitted in with me. And as we sat there for a long time, the Lord then repeated to me and said, "I need to show you one more thing." The Lord then showed me a very big house, and it was like a palace type house. and in front of it, it was the name Sarah Binam, which Binam was my other surname.
Okay.
And when I saw this, I was happy. I was like, oh, I've got my own palace outside of the palace that the Lord showed us. So I went inside and I was filled with so much joy that I've never felt so happy in my entire life. And I looked around, everything was so detailed, beautifully. There was no such thing as a mistake there.
So this was your own house?
This was
from
my
the Lord,
own house.
And what was in the house?
It was like a normal proper house. There
Your
was
dream-
a
your
kitchen,
dream house, yeah.
basically, yeah.
Okay.
And then when the Lord finished, he then took me back in front of my home. Before leaving the heavens, I had to change again. I had to take off my heavenly robes and put on the normal clothes that I had on before. And then he would take me back in front of my house and he embraced me with great love. And I said to him, I love you, Lord. And he replied, I love you too. Now, the thing about this is, you see in the world, a lot of people can say they love you. Whether it's your partner, your family members, your parents. And we just take it and, oh, okay, they told me they love me. And then the next day you just forget about it. You forget they even told you it. But then with the Lord, as soon as he says that, it stays with you for a really long time. And it's just those words from him, it fills your heart with so much pleasure, like nothing else in the world even matters. On the 28th of July, the visit was from 10:15 to 10:45. And as usual, I heard the Lord say, Sarah, I must talk with you. He held out his hand, took mine, and walked to the end of my road. As we started flying or lifting into the air, we flew for quite a while, and then we reached the big golden gate again, which read the kingdom of heaven. And as we entered the heavens, the same angel took my hand again, and we went, and I got changed as usual. When the Lord came back, the Lord said, I must show you something. He then led me to a really long, dark tunnel. Like, there was no light. But as we entered the tunnel, it lit up by itself. And I knew it was because the Lord was with me, the glory of the Lord, which allowed the tunnel to be lit up. We walked through it for a long time, to a point where I asked the Lord, where are you taking me? He didn't answer my question. He was still holding my hand, but he just didn't answer my question. As we got to the end of the tunnel, there was like a big hole which descended, and we just stood there for a while looking into it, and then suddenly we started going down it. The Lord, he held my hand quite tight at that point, and I didn't understand where we were going. It was extremely hot. It was like you could see the fire was lit. You could see there was fire. You could see there was smoke, and you could see that there was people inside. But no, none of the flesh was burning. They were feeling the pain, but their flesh was not burning. And it was horrible. As we started going down, the deeper we went in, the louder the screams got. And people were crying and screaming for help every second as they were being tortured. I didn't understand who they were being tortured by, because I didn't see it clearly. And then the lower we got, it got to a point where I saw a lot of people wearing black hoods, and they were all chained up in like a straight line. And I asked the Lord, I was like, who are those people? And he replied, those are people who are heading towards hell. They do not know my word. Some do, but choose to ignore it. Those people are alive, but unaware of the place that they are heading to. I do not want any of my children to come to this place. And it saddens me so much that they choose to ignore me. And that kind of made sense, because there are people, they know the word of God. Some do and some don't. And those that do, they're probably in the worst situation, because they choose to ignore the word despite knowing the truth and knowing what they experience, what their reality is. And as we carried on going down, the screams got louder. I could now see a lot of people being tortured. Although there was an uncountable amount of people, I concentrated on two people that I had recognized from somewhere. And one of the people, Michael Jackson and Amy Winehouse. Now,
No way. Really?
Yeah, I used to be a big fan of Michael Jackson. I used to
too.
love Michael Jackson fully. We would listen to his songs, see his dance moves. He was like a role model for us. Well, for me personally. And they were being tortured in all kinds of ways. Michael was being forced to dance the dance moves that he did on Earth whilst alive. The demons would shoot sharp spears at him, and every time he pierced into his body, he would scream in agony and pain. The demons would then say to him, dance for your God that you worshipped on Earth. Dance, you fool. And while saying this, they would laugh in such an evil way. And this really upset me seeing this, because knowing that how much I really like Michael Jackson and seeing that he's in this horrible place.
How did he look?
Well, he didn't look old.
Okay.
He did not look old at all. But then you could tell that he was in pain.
Right.
You could tell the amount of torture he was going through.
Not his best.
Not his best at all. Then I saw Amy Winehouse, and she was being forced to sing the songs that she sang on Earth. Whilst doing this, there would be a huge snake which would enter within her, and it would roar. A lot of people have watched the movie Anaconda. Snake.
Okay.
A lot of people have watched the movie Anaconda, and you know how big the snake is. It was that size of a snake entering within her, walking around, crawling around inside her, and then coming out and then doing repeatedly, non-stop, and she would scream in so much pain. And whilst this was happening, I think she kind of realized that the presence of the Lord was there, because I have remember her saying she said, please, one more chance and I will change, please. But the Lord just ignored it, and we just walked on. Throughout all this, I cried so much, like I could not stop crying for the whole